Hello, my name is Jeff Haley, and I'm a domain expert in the area of data exchange for Informatica. Today I'll be providing a high-level overview of the problems industries are faced with when implementing inter-enterprise exchange of data with external trading partners. So let's take a whiteboard approach and look at all the activity that goes on when you begin exchanging data with external entities. To start, there are all types of data that need to be addressed. Flat files, log files, hierarchical structures like XML and JSON, industry standards that cross the board like HIPAA and HL7, EDI messages, NCPDP, NASHA, all kinds of different formats in terms of industry standards. And let's not forget document standards like PDFs, Excel, Word documents used heavily across many organizations. All of this comprises the category of complex data transformation within data exchange. All these formats contain valuable data that you need to be transformed from one to many or any to any different formats. You have this hurdle even without including your external partners. Now, if you consider your partners have these types of data too, and their formats are different than your formats, this causes more of a problem where they want their data formats processed even a little bit differently. Now that's just formats. Now we have many other factors to consider as well. How do you integrate all this data? And integration isn't just about pure point-to-point integration. It's about identifying entities outside your organization like customers, suppliers, patients, physicians. It's also about the quality of the data across the organization, standardizing the data, cleansing the data, and it may be about mastering a single golden copy of the data to know who has the primary information about a customer, who has the primary information about a patient, members, and so on. This encompasses all of data integration. Additionally, for B2B data exchange, you need things like business activity monitoring, you need things like partner community management, and managed file transfer. With business activity monitoring, you can include things like service level agreements. Are you getting the information to and from your partners on time? Are you able to monitor events as they process through the system? Next, in the partner community, how do you manage all these partners? You may have thousands of external patients or providers or customers or suppliers, any of the above. How do you manage all this information about that particular partner? And next, how do you transfer data from that partner securely? So how do you manage file transfer in a secure environment? These are all key capabilities of any B2B data exchange type operation. And as you can see on the left, these, again, are different industries, different formats. These are all things we need to consider. Now, that was a bit of an ugly mess, but it was reality. How do we make this easier in your environment, more manageable in your environment? Let's review the Informatica solution for data exchange. Data from external sources comes in all formats, different latencies, and through different protocols. This data provides rich information for the enterprise for daily operations and for analytics. The Informatica data exchange solution is deployed between the external business partners and internal systems and acts as a gateway to provide a centralized solution to deliver the highest visibility, integration, and orchestration of all data within the walls of the enterprise, as well as beyond to customers, suppliers, and business partners. The Informatica data exchange solution consists of 5 primary components. First component addresses connectivity. Managed file transfer is an enterprise solution with a wide array of supported secure protocols. It's easily configured by business users as part of our data exchange solution. Next, we have the management component of our data exchange solution. This is where we manage partners. Partner management consists of a number of elements. We have endpoints. These are actually defined in the managed file transfer process above, and that is where does the data come into and where does the data go out when exchanging data from external entities. The next component is partner itself and accounts within the partner. So accounts could be anything that would relate to the data you're exchanging from the partner. So for instance, if you're in the EDI industry and you have orders and invoices, this is where you may separate how you process orders differently from how you process invoices. Another key component of that partner management is the profile. The profile is what ties everything together. So your endpoints, your partners, your accounts, the workflows that are used to process the data, so the translation of that data, if you will, and the parameters that define how those workflows will execute at runtime are also accessible by the business user. Next, we provide monitoring capabilities. The first level of monitoring is at the business activity level. This is where business users can create dashboards to see what's going on in the day-to-day activity. It allows you to build SLAs based on key performance indicators. It allows you to utilize out-of-the-box reporting for individual reports against accounts. Another layer below this is our event monitoring. Within event monitoring, now we can see everything that happens within the process on a day-to-day basis and minute by minute, if you will. Meaning that when a file comes in, every step in the process can be exposed to the business user in terms of visibility. So that if a file comes in and gets translated from a flat file format to a JSON format and is enriched along the way, every step of the process can be viewed and see what that enrichment looks like, what problems may arise, and a lot of detail can be provided by this event activity. Next, we have the transformation. Data transformation provides the capability to translate PDFs, Excel documents, XML, JSON, EDI, all the different industry standards that are out there today. We provide the capability to address the industry standards by using libraries. These libraries provide you out-of-the-box usage for industry standards like EDI to be able to consume an EDI message or create an EDI message. Same thing goes for HIPAA and HL7 and other industry formats that we mentioned. So data transformation handles all the complex capabilities all the way down to PDFs, Excel, and Word documents throughout your organization. And finally, you need a way to integrate the data across your organization. The PowerCenter platform provides this integration to deploy and execute your transformations. PowerCenter provides this robust, scalable, highly available execution layer. This makes up the data exchange solution. Additionally, your overall visibility is enhanced through a view of metadata from source to target. This goes from your design tools all the way through to your reporting tools. This provides the capability to perform impact analysis across the platform and is a valuable asset to any organization. Now I'd like to talk about the three primary use cases that the data exchange solution addresses. The first is data integration. Data integration is typically integration between internal systems where data transformation is required. This can be complex transformation, it can be point-to-point integrations, typically landing on the file system, translated, and delivered to another application. The next use case addressed by the data exchange is the data integration hub. Again, this is inside the enterprise, centralizing integration among internal systems using a publish and subscribe mode. Rather than to build point-to-point delivery of large volumes of data, the data integration hub can be used to break up these tightly coupled types of interfaces. It can be used to provide a loosely coupled publish and subscribe paradigm. Here, applications are only concerned about their interaction or contract with the hub. This insulates the source applications from many dependencies on their targets and vice versa. And the last use case is the one we've been discussing thus far, which is data exchange. Data exchange is the inter-enterprise exchange of data that integrates external data to internal enterprise systems. As you can see, this expands the entire solution set, and it addresses all the needs that we talked about thus far, meaning all your different formats, integrating with external entities, tying this to back-end systems, providing secure managed file transfer. It's the overall solution for data exchange. Visibility and extensibility are essential in every solution environment. Your overall visibility is enhanced through a view of metadata from source to target. The value of the platform is further realized when you consider other capabilities our solutions provide. Our ability to publish data to back-end applications based on their individual needs without adding overhead to the source applications and slowing critical systems during daily operations. Providing clean data standardized to the governance needs of the organization. Identifying and resolving conflicts in data. Mastering and relating data across different domains provides valuable information on who your customers are, what they buy, or who your patients are, and who are their providers, where are they located, and other key demographic information. Finally, the ability to monitor and proactively respond to events that individually may not be significant, however, when combined can identify and stop or eliminate potential costly incidents across your enterprise. I hope this overview provided was valuable information to you and your organization. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague Eugene Ma to give you a more detailed view on the capabilities within Data Exchange. Thank you very much.
So now that we understand what the Data Exchange platform has to offer, I'm going to go through a demonstration of the product. My name is Eugene Ma, and I am an Informatica B2B product specialist. First, I'd like to walk you through the scenario and the components of the product. Our demonstration today involves Informatica here in the middle. Now, Informatica has many established trading partners that the Data Exchange solution is currently handling, and to add in new partners with similar files can be set up in a very short period of time. What this demonstration will focus on is those smaller trading partners that are supplying data to Informatica in various unstructured formats that typically will require a specification to be provided for us to be able to use that data. The solution itself will utilize that spec provided by the trading partner and process those files based upon it. After the initial setup, this can all be accomplished by the Data Exchange operator or the business user. So how are we going to do this? First, we're going to take these files and bring them inside our firewall. From here, we'll take the source files and put them into a generic Power Center mapping. This Power Center mapping has a few key features I'd like to stop and highlight. The first step here is the traffic cop process. This process can determine the file type, whether it's a PDF, Excel, Word, or text file, and also the type of content within this file. It uses this information to determine which parsing rules to apply to this document. The next step is to take the source document and put it into a canonical structure, which is XML in my demonstration. From this point, I can now apply the exact same transformation rules because everything is in the exact same format. I can apply things like my standardized addressing, deduplication, and loading into my downstream applications. So now that I have this Power Center mapping in place, this is a one-time setup that is developed by our trusty IT team. We can now switch back to our Data Exchange operators. So, to assist the Data Exchange operators, the first thing that we're going to provide to them is these checklists. A checklist is a list of operations that an operator will need to use in order to onboard a partner. To help the DX operator, we provide a tracking sheet that the user can input start times and end times, as well as comments and error flagging. This information will show up in reports that an administrator can later use to determine where the bottlenecks are in our process and improve the process as they go through. The first step in this checklist is to actually create a partner. This partner is a definition of what a trading partner is and who will be sending or receiving that data to Informatica. Here I can enter all the details of a partner and specify the amounts or types. Now the first step of the process is to create a partner. This partner is a definition of the trading partner that will be either sending or receiving data to Informatica. Here I can enter in all the details of a partner and also specify the different types of accounts or type of data that will be received by the trading partners. The data exchange will be organized by partner and accounts, allowing admins to control which user has access to which partners and which accounts. This ensures that trading partners and trading partner A will not have access to trading partner B's data. Once we've defined a partner, we need to bring the files into our system. This is using our Manage File Transfer component. This is an enterprise managed file transfer utility that is completely integrated within the solution. This MFT solution here will provide you the guaranteed delivery as well as the security and the ability to transfer those files in your system. Every step of the way we're going to be tracking when we receive the file, if there's any problems with the file, and what we're going to be looking at in the back end. To make this easier for a business user, all the connections are defined as endpoints. These endpoints can create independent of the partner and be leveraged throughout the process. So now that we have a file coming in and through an endpoint, a partner that the file will go to, we need to assign these to the reusable workflow. To do this, we create a profile, and these profiles will tie the partner to the actual mapping. Because the mappings are all reusable, we'll also provide the user to be able to customize the mapping by seeding in profile parameters. These profile parameters will affect the behavior of the mapping and can also provide additional data or metadata that can be used within the mapping. This makes the mapping much more reusable, since now we can create hundreds of profiles against the same mappings at runtime without having to go back to change that mapping. So here's a flow of the data, but how does it actually work? We'll take the file coming in through an endpoint. Once it gets into our system, the corresponding profile will be invoked. As the file is flowing through the mapping, each step of the way it's going to grab profile parameters from that profile, and based on what it's in the profile parameter, it will direct the file to the appropriate branches. As the data is passing through the system, we're also tracking each step of the way using an event. The events will receive data from the mapping to give the operator a detailed view of where the file is and what the errors or issues that may have arisen. On a higher level, dashboards are also there to show you the status of the particular partner or account, as well as the system as a whole. These reports also contain SLA dashboards to track the SLAs and give you the ability to trigger other events to occur based on these reports. And now we'll move into the demonstration. So now we're going to actually walk through the product. Now what you see here is a web browser with the Data Exchange console loaded up. Now the first thing I'm going to do is log in as the administrator. You can log in as a role-based user where your security will restrict what you have access to. As the administrator, I have full access to see everything within the Data Exchange repository. The first thing that comes up is going to be my dashboards. As you can see in here, the last 24 hours I don't have anything that was running, but if I switch it to the last 7 days, you can see the series of reports, and you can drill down into each of these dashboards to see what the actual events were to cause these dashboards to occur. Now inside the dashboards we have approximately 20 reports that come out of the box, but you can go ahead and create your own dashboards and customize these dashboards in any ways that you want. By customizing the dashboards, as you log in, you're going to have your own personalized view, and you can restrict them to certain partners and different event types that are coming through into your data exchange system. Also, the SLA dashboard, I have a simple rule in here that's going to show me anytime a rule is violated, and the rule is going to be if the event took longer than 1 second. Now that's a very simple rule just in order to get these reports out, but you can see in here that I have 2 events right now that are showing that they are longer than 1 second and it violated that KPI or that particular SLA. Now as a data exchange operator, the first step is going to be coming into one of these checklists. Now these checklists, if you recall, they're going to be just a series of steps to tell you how to onboard or do a particular action within the data exchange. Inside the checklist here, I have a series of steps that the operator will follow, and also descriptions on how these tasks will be performed. The start time and end time will record how long each of these steps are going to take, and it gives me an option to type in particular descriptions or any problems that may arise when I'm doing this particular task. There's also hyperlinks in here that's going to point to particular areas within the data exchange, so I can quickly go ahead and create that partner or create that profile associated to it. For this particular demonstration, I'm actually going to go through the navigation bar and highlight some other features within the product. So we'll go ahead and cancel out of the checklist and move straight into the partners. So the first object we're going to take a look at is the partners. Now the partners, you recall, are going to be how we organize the repository. So when we come into our dashboards or we come in, log in as a user, we will have privileges to see certain partners. In here we'll go ahead and look at the Informatica World partner, and we can see here we have a partner defined for it and the description of who this partner is. Also within here we have the ability to store the different contact information associated to this partner. If you go ahead and click on contact, you can go in and add on who their key people are to contact if there's something wrong with this particular partner. We can also go ahead and store additional information if you wanted to add in like a LinkedIn address or a company website, and also go in and specify which sort of accounts will be coming from this partner. Now remember, in our example here, we're going to have a spec file and a data file. So I have two different accounts. One's going to be accepting the specs and bring it down a certain path within the workflow, and we'll also have a data element where the data files will be coming through and applying a certain spec. Now the next step is to actually define the profiles. Now you can see in here I have two different profiles defined. Now what's key within these profiles is we're going to be matching a partner and account to a particular workflow. So when a file comes in and a profile is invoked, it knows exactly where to go to. But also with this, the data exchange operator can come into the workflow parameters and customize which profile parameters will be in the mapping. In here, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the elements within the properties. You can see in here I have my data quality properties where I can turn on and off, and I also have the run mode. The run mode is where I can specify whether it's a test or production mode, and this simply just goes into a filter within the Power Center mapping that tells us either to load into the application in the back end or actually just run everything up until the back end and then toss out the data. The specifications that I'm given here are in these two lines here. So the first one is the name of the spec. You can see here I have two different names that I have access to in this profile parameter. The first one I'm going to use is the Informatica World spec driven, and also specifying the version number of the spec. So I also have in here the latest keyword. If it is set to latest, the Power Center mapping knows how to go into the list of versions and grab the latest one. I can certainly go specify an Informatica World version 1 or version 5, so I can have different versions being executed within this workflow. For the moment in this demonstration, I'm just going to keep that as latest. The other thing I wanted to highlight in here is the delayed processing. So when files are coming in, I have the option to queue up these files and even go partially process these files and wait until a certain period is met or a certain criteria is met before I go and execute it. So in this particular example here, I have my timing rules where, let's say files are coming in throughout the day, but I only want to execute these at night. So when 11 p.m. hits, I can go ahead and create a timing rule that's going to be where 11 o'clock hits, we'll go ahead and process all the files that were accumulated. I can also go set up a delayed rule where we can say we can partially process the data coming through, and let's say when we hit $1 million of orders or we have an aggregate number of files, we'll go ahead and delay until we have that condition met. We can also set up release rules, or we can actually just go ahead and manually release them. So when a user comes in, every morning they can go ahead and click the button, they can go ahead and look to see what files we received before we actually release them. So that's the profiles. So the next step of our process is to create that endpoint. Now inside the endpoints, I can go ahead and create a new endpoint and select the transfer protocol that I'm going to be using. Now remember, in the back end, we're using our managed file transfer solution. Inside here, FTP is the most common transfer protocol that we use, so let's go ahead and set one of these up. I'll go ahead and select FTP and click on OK, and we can go ahead and select the name that we will use. So I'll use an Informatica account, and we'll go ahead and select that partner as our benchmark partner. The account will be the benchmark account, and remember these were set up in the partner window there. Now our next step is to go through the template on how to create that FTP. So the first step is I'll go in and create that generic FTP template, which I can go fill it out. So inside here you can see I have an FTP and an FTPS. So the FTP is the one I'm going to use. I'll go ahead and copy and activate that, and it'll let me fill out the template. So here I can write in ftp.informatica.com, and we'll leave it as port 21. We can also come in here and set advanced options for this particular host, such as email on failure, email on success, or we can actually go in and do some more advanced topics like throttling the speeds, or actually go set up encryption algorithms or compression algorithms within the host. Now another common one that we have here is the number of retries. So I can go ahead and let's just set this to retry 5 times. We'll go ahead and click OK on that, and now we've set up that host. Now in order to access that host, we still need to configure a mailbox or the login to get into that account. So we can go ahead and click on the mailbox here, and we'll go ahead and type in the username and password. Here we can also go set up the packaging. So if you need PGP encryption or any certificate or XML type encryption, we can go ahead and click on Open PGP. We configure that, and you can set up the exchange of the certificates through here. There's a full certificate manager within the tool as well, so it's very simple to just go ahead and fill this form out. Now, if there's any advanced type options that you need, if you scroll down into the commands, you can actually see the different type of commands that will be executed if you're going to be putting or getting files coming through. So now that we have a host in our mailbox, our next option is to actually go figure out which files that we want, and that's by adding a pattern. So you can imagine that we're going into an FTP server. We don't want to grab every single file out of it. We only want to grab all of the XLS files. So we can say filename.xls, or we can actually go ahead and put wildcards in there and say star.xls. When we created this, it's anytime this pattern hits, we're going to go ahead and assigning it to a particular profile that's associated to that partner. Okay, we'll go ahead and click Save it there, and now anytime the XLS file comes in, it will go execute that profile. Now you can set up as many patterns as you want, depending on the different number of profiles you have, but remember, you can have hundreds of profiles for one particular mapping. Now the next few steps here is just to back up. So if you want to back up the files in a particular file location or HDFS, you can go ahead and put in your credentials here, and then all the sending options, meaning when you want to use this endpoint as a send endpoint. So their next step is to actually go in and take a look at what is happening within our repository. So this is where we look at the event list. Now the event list is going to give us a detailed look of what sort of files are coming through. So now we can actually go into our file system. So inside this file system here, we have a series of files. So the first one here is going to be our order spec. Now opening up that order spec, you can see in here we have a series of column names listed out in column A. We have the data types, the required field, precision, and the target column name. In column F here, we have the notes. And this is where a business user can come in and type in some simple business logic, such as a substring or the end date must be greater than the effective date or the start date. We can also go ahead and have the business user type in error messages. These error messages will be populated if something happens, if one of the checks for the data types or if it's missing data. We can go ahead and populate this error message in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this spec file and drop it into my drop file location. This drop file location, I just have a file watch on the Dropbox location. Well, as soon as the file comes in with the keyword of spec in it, it will go process it as a spec file. So coming back into the data exchange system, you can see here that we have 21001, and this was processed on the 3:55 my time, as well as looking at the event status. The spec file was processed. Now to get into more details of that, I can click on the actual event, and you can see the original spec file is loaded in, and archived off in our repository, as well as it tells me some details about receiving the spec file. Now also in here I have these event attributes. Now attributes are searchable items of metadata that we attach to the event. Now I can go ahead and search for a particular attribute key, but I can also use these in my dashboards later on. These are what we call the key performance indicators. But inside here you can see the spec version name is actually IWSpec InfoWorld and version 170. Now the IWSpec that came from a profile parameter that we set up in the original profile, and in the version number we had set to latest. So it went and found the last version of the spec inside the repository and grabbed me the next number. Now we can go back and take a look at one of the data files. Looking at this data file here, you see that we have the columns listed on the top and we have a series of data within the document here. So I can go ahead and take this file now and we'll go ahead and drop it into drop files. Now the same process is looking into this drop file location. Whenever we see the keyword data in there, it's going to go invoke that profile associated to the data files. Coming back into my event list now, you see 21002, and this one here is actually pending review. Now looking at the event attributes here, the service name version is still the one that we're using. Remember, it's grabbing the latest version of the spec and using this particular spec name. The event details here, we can see here that the input message was archived off, so we can always go back and reprocess the same file that came through. We see Excel to XML conversion. Remember, this is my canonical form, and we can go in and take a look at every single record in here, but what it did was converted that Excel document into an XML. Now coming back into here, it says, oh, we have a problem though. This is an invalid Excel file. Now clicking on this invalid Excel file will go ahead and open up the document in Excel again. But as you can see in this screen here, we actually went and highlighted where the error was. Now you can see this text is red in here, and it also grabbed the comment from that notes field in the spec. This particular one didn't have any comments, so we just used a default message which was invalid format. But you can see here this is not a valid date. Now I'll go ahead and close that off here. Now what we can do now is take the exact same process, but just change the spec. So I have in here a new spec, which a column name, example, and example. I'm also going to actually add in Eugene here, put that as a string and say that is a mandatory field of 50, and we'll just put it into the column Eugene again. I'll go ahead and save that off, and we'll move that spec into the drop file location. Now coming back into my event list, you see 21003, and you can see that order 2 spec was inserted into the services. We can also come into the event attributes and see that this spec now grabbed the number 171. Now our next step is to take a data file and move that data file into the system. We'll go ahead and open up this data file, and you can see in here we have everything like we had before, even the invalid date. And we had the example, it was an added column, but we'll go ahead and add in Eugene as well. And I'll just go ahead and fill that down with Eugene. We'll go ahead and save that, and we'll close it off, and we'll copy this file into the drop file location. Now looking at the event list here, we have 21004. We're clicking on that event to see the event details. We can see the spec version number is now using 171. And we can also go into the event details and see that we have order 2 data being loaded in now. We can look at the Excel to XML conversion. We can see the records coming through with example now, and we can also see Eugene. And it's going to show you every single record in here except the record with that invalid date. Alright, so now we can come back into the errors and take a look at the errors. We'll go ahead and open that file, and we get the same thing, right? We have the errors highlighted in red with the message, and if we scroll over to the right here, we have the example and the Eugene column. So what have we just seen here? So we've seen taking an inbound file coming through without any spec. We can provide the spec in first and then assign it to a particular data file coming through using profile parameters. So in this demonstration here, what we actually did was we took an Excel spec that came into our system. We figured out that it was a spec based on the name of the file. We brought it into the system where we define a dynamic service based on that spec coming in. The dynamic service is generating a library that gets deployed into the Power Center system and then deployed out. Now when a data file comes through, we can actually go in as a business user and specify which spec to actually use against this data file. As it's coming through here, we convert the data to XML based on that library, and then we can apply the downstream processing and then ultimately load it into our downstream system. Now our scenario here was using Excel, but we can actually use the power of data transformation to use any file that comes through, whether it's a PDF spec, a Word spec, or just a plain text file spec. We can use all the different formats and using the data transformation to auto-generate these libraries. Then the business user can come in and specify which version of the library that they want, or which version is specific to their trading partner, and actually load in the system. So that concludes our demonstration for today. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch the data exchange demonstration, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.